Do you want to know what's preventing you from reaching your full potential? It's listening to that inner critic. Today, I want to talk to you about your inner critic. There are lots of them, but let's talk about the main one, the faceless judge, the one that's always sitting on your shoulder, whispering lies in your ear, saying, "You're not enough. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're just not enough." And, I have an inner critic that used to be 6 feet tall. No, it's not Yoda. Yoda is my inner coach. But now Yoda is the one that's 6 feet tall. But my Darth Vader used to be 6 feet tall. So let's talk a little bit about your inner critic, how to expose him, and how or her to shrink him. You're never going to get rid of your inner critic because it's part of who you are. But where did he come from? And how do you stop that insanity of listening to the lies that it's whispering in your ear? Because it's really preventing you from being who you truly are. Do you really want to listen to somebody who's telling you all these negative things? No, right? But many people, especially business owners and leaders, believe that inner critic helped them become the success that they are. So they think it's their friend. I would be sitting on a couch doing nothing if I didn't listen to that inner critic constantly beat me up to do better, to work harder, to be stronger. Well, does that really work? Does it work with your kids? Does it work with your dog? Does it work with your friends, your spouse? It doesn't really work. Positive reinforcement always works. Change has to feel good. How do you make that happen? Well, first, we have to expose your inner critic. You got to learn who it is. So, this judge, this faceless judge that's sitting on your shoulder, whispering lies on your ear, the way to expose it is to listen for those negative thoughts that are popping into your head. Negative thoughts that happen when you do something where you make a mistake. Guess what? We all make mistakes, right? We all do. Why is it that when we make a mistake, that inner critic is loudest or we're vulnerable? A lot of times when we're trying to lose weight or we're up against something that's fearful, like we have to do a presentation or we have to do something that we just never done before, that inner critic is going to come out. Well, it doesn't have to. It's okay to allow that inner critic to speak as long as you quiet it, as long as you recover as quickly as possible. That's the goal. So first step is to just be aware. Be aware that you have that inner critic. Expose that inner critic as best you can. How? Well, when that negative thought comes up, go, "Oh, that's my inner critic speaking," and acknowledge that. Think about how many times a day that inner critic is whispering those lies in your ear. It is really important to track that. It might be 15, 20 times an hour because we have approximately 50 to 70,000 thoughts that pop into our head. And the path of least resistance in our brain is the path that is the negative. Why? Because it's the fight or flight path. We need to make sure that we're going to survive. We need to make sure everything's okay. And that primal state is alive and well in us because it's part of our evolution. It was designed to allow us when we went outside the cave and we saw that the weather was okay. Okay, we can flip off that switch. Or there was no other rival tribe trying to attack us, or there were no predators out there trying to eat us. And then we could flip the switch off. But the problem today is that we don't flip the switch off. We keep it on all the time. We are constantly getting attacked by what they like to call, or I call, paper tigers, right? You've heard that term before, right? You're constantly getting attacked by little things like an email, your text, a call, another project thrown at you, okay? Or you're getting all these little things that might happen in the day that are not necessarily what you expected. And that sets you off. It brings the boil up. It brings that temperature up until you get to a boil. And when you get to a boil, think about it. How long does it take for a pot of boiling water to come back down to room temperature? A long time. So what we want to do is to create a pattern interrupt for that inner critic. And the way to do that, I'm going to give you a simple little tool. First, acknowledge that it's there, and then take two physiological, we call it a physiological sigh. You take 2 deep breaths in through the nose. One, fill the lungs. The second one, expand the rib cage, and then blow out through your mouth. Again, you've just stopped the stress response. So now, once you've acknowledged that inner critic, you take the 2 deep breaths. I want you to start thinking about, well, what situations does this inner critic show him, her, herself? And start being aware that situation happens, how often, what time of the day, with who, whether it's at home, at work, with what kind of people you're with. And now we can start looking at patterns. And then once you start finding those patterns, guess what? We can do something about it. We can start working on the belief system that's feeding into this. Because why did that inner critic become to fruition? Why did it come to life? It came to life because at one moment in your life, you had to believe what the inner critic told you so that you could survive. You believed the lie that you're not good enough because the alternative wasn't acceptable. You want to learn more? Jump on a one-on-one with me, or go to in the Facebook group. I now just created guides for you on each one of these inner critics. There's the main one, the Faceless Judge, but there's 9 accomplices. And we're going to start spending more time going through these so that I can help you stop listening to that inner critic. Why? Because it's going to keep you from really being as productive and as vibrant as you want to be. Why do you want to listen to something negative? Let's focus on developing your inner coach. And we'll talk about how to do that in future lives. Go make it a great week. Thanks.